tech and gaming reviews here. So, the PlayStation State of Play that was just 2 days ago, a lot of people are saying that this was the worst State of Play of all time. I personally don't think it was as bad as what everybody is making it out to be. Now, yes, it was not perfect by any means, and that's just to be said with, like, any, like, kind of, like, game showcase, whatever, State of Play from PlayStation, Microsoft Gaming, that's to say with everything. Not everything is going to please every single person, or I should say, every single gamer in the entire world. So, it definitely was not perfect, but I don't honestly think that this State of Play was as bad as what everybody was saying. So, you had Monster Hunter Wilds finally with an announcement and some gameplay, and the game looks pretty darn decent for the quality of the graphics and such. Now, it could be completely different once the game comes out, and the graphics might be dog crap or whatever, and that's just what we've been getting with pretty much a lot of games here lately, like since like the late PS4 generation back in like 2018, 2019, we've just been getting a lot of games that have been getting rushed out the door, not getting finished or polished or anything. And then there's Dragon Age, another game. I forget what the last title of that was. It's Dragon Age something. Then you got a few PlayStation 1 and Sega Genesis remasters of some old classic games. Then we got one that most people are going to not absolutely like, and we actually got a couple discs here that we're going to show, and that is Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. Now, there's a nice thing that I will admit that I got to give Sony credit for this. And as soon as that was announced, there was a lady that said, okay, you want the upgrade? Well, it's only going to charge you $10. Now, I still hold up to this and think that it should be free. Like, it literally should be free. But, at least on the positive side, at least Sony is not going to charge you full $50, $60, $70, whatever the heck that it's going to cost for new people that have a PS5 that don't have a Horizon Zero Dawn for the PS4. So, that's one area you have to give Sony some credit on, is at least you don't have to pay the full price to get the upgrade. Now, I personally am looking forward to replaying Horizon Zero Dawn, and here are both editions that we got. So, we got the regular edition of the game right here, which is basically without the DLCs, and then this is the complete edition. I know it's kind of hard with my light showing on that or whatever, but when you can see it, this is the complete edition, and it comes with the story content DLCs. It it comes with the Frozen Wilds expansion, and then there might be one other expansion or something, but yeah, this is probably the disc that we're going to put in our PS5, so that way we can play the Frozen Wilds DLC, because even though we technically just finished this game earlier this year on the PlayStation 4 Pro, we literally beat this game on the PS4 Pro back in February of this year, and I thought it was pretty fun. It was great, and I'm actually really excited to revisit it again, and hopefully, and what's going to make it really worth the $10 is if we get the same freaking graphical frame rate options as Horizon Forbidden West does have for the PlayStation 5. If we get a 4K native mode at 30 frames a second, we get a balance mode that plays kind of like in mix of 4K dynamic and 1800p, but also letting you play at 40 frames a second and then letting you play the game at like 1440p with a performance mode being at 60 frames a second. Now, if we get those modes, the $10 would be justified, in my personal opinion, because we'll have a performance mode, a balance mode, and a quality mode, and it's going to be great rather than just having this on the PS4 Pro and it just plays in solid quality mode of 60 frames, or not 60 frames, however, 30 frames a second at 4K. So, if it's going to have those graphical options like Forbidden West has for the PlayStation 5, then the $10 is definitely going to be justified for us. But there's been some other games too, but the very last game is the one that I'm actually going to criticize people for, because apparently, honestly, when it got announced, the last game at the State of Play before they ended it, Ghost of Yotoi, or however you pronounce that word, but this game looks like a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, which was an impressive graphical looking game, and people are saying that this Ghost of Yotoi game literally does not look any different, and saying that the graphics are not up to date. Oh yeah, I'm wondering what the heck's going on. So, in other words, you would much rather have a game to look realistic as possible and then never release and let the developers freaking get laid off. See, this is what they don't understand. This is literally what the audience does not understand. There has been so many layoffs. There has been so many layoffs. It's not just with one particular company. It's not just with the three big manufacturers like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. It's been with everywhere. It's been with gaming developers. It's been with Microsoft. It's been with PlayStation. It's been with Nintendo. It's been with, countless of other developers. Ubisoft, freaking Epic Games, Naughty Dog, freaking EA. It's insane. We have been having so many layoffs because of the sales have not been reaching, and the games are costing way too much on budgets to make, and in order for them to do that, they have to try to get the most realistic graphics as they possibly can. I honestly, when I seen Ghost of Yotoi, I personally thought it looked good. Personally. Even if it is just as good in terms of visuals as Ghost of Tsushima, that game also looks fantastic. You could go back, play Ghost of Tsushima. If you have a PlayStation 5, you can literally go back to an OG PlayStation 4 2013 model and play Ghost of Tsushima, and it's still going to look pretty. It's still going to look fantastic. So, I like how people just act like graphics is a big deal, but it's like, well then, you apparently don't want the game to be released because you want the developers and all that to pay so much more money. And honestly, I think that we're starting to get to a point to where, like, graphics, we're starting to hit a brick wall when in terms of graphics. We're not quite there yet, but we're relatively close. Like, you're not going to be hardly able to tell a difference between graphics and, like, probably games starting right now and games going into the future and into the next generation of consoles, such as the PlayStation 6 and whatever the hell Microsoft calls their next-gen Xbox. So, yeah, we're not going to be able to tell much of a big difference in terms of graphics, I think, starting from today, or at least starting with this generation going forward, because we're just starting to get too good on terms of the visuals, and it's costing developers even more and more and more budgets in order to get even prettier. And when you honestly think about it, they don't even get 4K most of the time, and 60 frames that most people want. I bet you if developers kept at least decent graphics as like where we're at now, they could probably be able to get 60 frames a second on a lot of games, even at 4K or 1080p. But developers and publishers always just want to go, oh, we have to make sure the graphics look the prettiest and bestest of overall. Like, I'm not dishing out on them, but we are starting to get to a point to where graphics are going to be harder to tell a difference from pretty much now into, like, the next generation of consoles and such. So, like, I don't think we're going to be able to tell much of a difference with games in the future. Now, going from the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3, and then the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, and then even better yet, from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 4 Pro, that was when it was the golden era. of being able to be like, oh wow, this definitely looks so much cleaner. This looks so much sharper. But now that's not the case, because you can even tell from the PlayStation 5 Pro from Mark Cerny after he showed it. It doesn't justify $700 if you have a current PlayStation 5 like we got. We got a day one PlayStation 5 and we paid $500 for it. But getting tiniest details that you're not going to notice, it really does not justify the $700 price tag. So like, you paid $500 for this, but yet they want $700 for almost the same thing that you're not going to get any sorts of upgrades that much on. So yeah, you're just better off to keep your $500 PlayStation 5, and it can still play 4K quality if you play games at 30 frames a second, and it's got performance mode that still looks somewhat of upscale 4K, maybe not as sharp, but letting you have the option to play at 60 frames a second. So the PlayStation 5 Pro definitely was not needed. We did not need the PlayStation 5 Pro. The current PlayStation 5 is powerful enough, and developers have not took full advantage of it yet. I screwed up there, but you get the point, and this is one area that I know that fans and people are going to like our video on. But yeah, the PlayStation 5 Pro, it was not worth it. It's not worth bringing out. But Sony just went ahead and said it. Now, if it was $600, it might be a little bit worth it. But $700? Oh, wow. That's asking a bit too high, Chief. That's a bit high in price when you can get something that's almost going to look just as good for $250 cheaper. So, yeah, if you have a current PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Slim, do not get the PlayStation 5 Pro. Now, I have always been wanting to get the best hardware, but when you look at this, it's just like, it's not even worth it, especially for the price point. So, minus all that, yeah, I think that the Sony State of Play was not as bad as people are saying. I like that we finally got Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered finally just officially announced, and now we don't have to hear about rumors no more. And Ghost of Yotoi, I'm absolutely looking forward to that game when it launches next year in 2025, if it doesn't get delayed. But the graphics that people are complaining about that game, I mean, I thought they looked good, honestly. And like I stated, even if they're just as good or exactly the same as Ghost of Tsushima, I mean, you still can't complain, because a lot of people love Ghost of Tsushima, and it was one of the most popular PlayStation 4 games, especially the last PlayStation 4 major exclusive game that came out for that console. It was incredibly popular. And honestly, what if it is and you can get 60 FPS on the game on a PlayStation 5, and then they give you the option to play at quality mode at 30 frames a second, which I could see them possibly doing that. But even if the graphics look the same, maybe this might help us get 60 frames a second. And then everybody won't complain about the graphics, because they'll be like, oh, these still look good. And we get a nice performance mode, just like what Ghost of Tsushima does right now, if you have the PlayStation 5 Director's Cut version. So, yeah, it wasn't super great, but, like, it wasn't horrible either, like everybody's saying. I like the PlayStation State of Play. So, yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to revisiting Horizon Zero Dawn on the PlayStation 5, and definitely cannot wait to see what Ghost of Yotoi has in stores for us once it launches, because the game absolutely looks, it's going to look like it's going to be a great PlayStation 5 game. So, hit that like button if you enjoy this content, and subscribe if you're new to this channel, and be sure to let us know in the comment section down below of your thoughts of this PlayStation State of Play showcase that they had, and what's your reaction on it, and what's your reaction on Ghost of Yotoi, the very last game of the show. Do you think it looks bad, or is it a game you're absolutely looking forward to, since it is the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima? And let us know if you're pumped and excited for that game or not. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. So tech and gaming review. So rate, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you guys in the next video. Peace.